Welcome back to Inside South Florida. Is your home able to withstand a hurricane? Well, hopefully you won't have to find out, but what if you do? Here is Paul Licata with some great advice with Dean Mitchell Restoration. Paul, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Dave, great to see you too. Thanks for having me back.
You know, we'll have to have you on to talk about like sort of happy, fun stuff and not just like hurricane stuff every single year.
Yeah, it seems like I get invited to come on and talk about bad stuff. But
right.
It's good, you know, when we talk about the preventative end of it, at the end of the day, it's gonna help people.
Yeah, and perhaps you were the lucky charm last year. I don't know, because we had sort of an uneventful hurricane season, which was good, and hopefully more of the same this year. But even if, you know, it's predicted to be a slow season, but even if it's not, people need to get prepared one way or the other, right?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest misconceptions when people hear that, hey, it's going to be a slow season, they really don't think about preparing for a hurricane season. You know, with the inflow of new residents in South Florida, there's, you know, probably tens of thousands of people that weren't in South Florida in '92 when Andrew hit. You know, $26 billion worth of damage. That too was predicted to be a slow season. I believe that was the fourth named storm that year, and it was one of the biggest in history. So you always need to be prepared regardless of what's being predicted for the season.
Because as you and I were talking about a few minutes ago, sometimes it's not even a hurricane that can do the damage. A tropical storm can do it. Some really heavy rain can do damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Back in 2012, I believe it was, Tropical Storm Isaac. There was a lot of damage that was sustained during that tropical storm because it dumped like 10 inches of water, 10 inches of rainfall in a short amount of time. So there was a lot of significant damage from that, and that was a tropical storm. It wasn't a hurricane.
Right.
So yes.
So let's start talking specifics. So right now, as people are watching, what should the average homeowner be doing now to get themselves ready?
You know, there's a lot of things that people could be doing right now. You know, one of the biggest things is reviewing your insurance policy, making sure you have the correct coverage. At that same time, I would be asking, you know, your insurance agent, you know, who should I use in the event of the need of calling in a restoration company? You know, do your research, do your homework on restoration companies, because when you have to call that person, it's going to be 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning. You have to make that call. You're not going to have ample time to do the research. You know, a lot of other things they could be doing is making sure, having a roof inspection done, making sure that all the tiles are adhered to the roof properly, inspect the garage doors, reinforce it if necessary, caulk up all your windows, ensure that all cracks and any stucco are properly sealed prior to hurricane season. And really, and you'll see, you know, on the news or in the paper, you know, all the supply checklists. Those are great. You know, get your supplies, have them ready, be ready to go.
Yeah, I've heard pros and cons about physically boarding up your windows. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a couple different ways. There's impact glass. There's the hurricane film you could put on your windows. There's the hurricane shutters. You never want to tape your windows. That's an old wives' tale. You know, tape up the windows with duct tape and you're good. No. You know, some plywood on hand is always a good idea, something to have. This way, if a window does break, you could board it up, prevent the elements from coming in after that. But no, you want to use approved techniques to secure the house. And that might be, like I said, the hurricane shutters, the impact glass, or the hurricane film on the windows.
What are some of the things that you see when you go into someone's home after a tropical storm or a hurricane? What are some of the more common things that you run into?
You know, probably a lot of common things we run into are, you know, not shutting off their electric. You know, they might leave the house, evacuate the house, and they're in the middle of cooking something. Well, when the power comes back on, that stove comes back on.
Wow, okay.
And now not only do you have a flood, but you have a fire on top of it too. You know, shutting off the main water shutoffs. You know, you always want to make sure you do that. If there's a broken pipes that break, shut off the main water shutoff to prevent further damage from occurring. You know, taking electronic equipment and putting it up on tables or on sofas or on counters to prevent that from shorting out and burning out.
It sounds to me it probably wouldn't hurt people to make an actual physical checklist of these things, right? Because when you're in panic mode, you probably forget to do some of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, checklists are available on the Dean Mitchell Group website. We have checklists that are downloadable and printable for people to have, so they know what to do. So there is some type of plan in place in the unfortunate event that they do get suffer damage from a storm or a hurricane.
Paul, I didn't realize how much of a factor wind plays in all this, and how wind damage is sort of the conduit to a whole bunch of other things going really wrong.
Right. You know, during a hurricane, you know, the biggest amount of damage is sustained due to the winds, and the reason for that is, roof tiles get blown off, which allows water to come into the house. Whole roofs can get blown off. And when you talk about wind damage, you're talking about some big ticket items that need to be repaired or replaced on a home or an office or a building. So yeah, wind damage is the main culprit, and that allows for the rain, and usually it's heavy torrential rains, to come in and ruin the rest of the property inside the dwelling.
Yeah. You were here a year ago. You guys had this web-based program you just launched. What's the latest on that?
Yeah. Well, we had some exciting news that came out this year. We actually launched an app, FaciliSmart, and it's available in both the App Store and the Google Play Store. And we have a residential version. FaciliSmart is really geared towards commercial use, but we talked about checklists early on. If you go on, download FaciliSmart in one of either the App Store or the Google Play Store, and the login is FaciliSmart, the password is FaciliSmart, all the checklists we just talked about will be all available, and they'll be all accessible on your iPhone or your Droid device in the event that you need them.
That's great, because again, as we were saying, when the hurricane's coming, it's too late.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you probably run into that all the time.
Yeah, all the time. We go in, and unfortunately, people weren't prepared. Either they're new residents to South Florida and they just don't know any better. They didn't experience a lot of the tropical storms or back when the hurricanes came through, and they just don't know. They're used to living in the Northeast where they have to worry about snow and polar vortexes. Well, down here we're worried about hurricanes. So, giving them the tools they need to be properly prepared, and prevent the damage and prevent, the amount of work that I have to do when I go in there and clean it all up.
Tell me, and tell the people who may not know everything that you guys do. I know that's sort of a general question,
Sure.
but I mean, from A to Z, you guys can help them out, right?
Oh, absolutely. Dean Mitchell Restoration is a full-service restoration company. We're the guys that you call at 2 in the morning, and we'll be out there responding if that pipe breaks or you have some flood damage or fire damage. But we're also the guys that'll put you back together to where you were before that event happened. We're licensed general contractors. We have carpenters and all that staff on hand to make sure that you guys are, whoever is up and ready to go, just like they were before the event happened. And
for people to get a hold of you, how do they do it?
DeanMitchellGroup.com, or in the event of an emergency, it's 561-881-8567.
Well, hopefully you won't get any hurricane-related calls, but you're a great guy, so I hope you get a ton of calls.
Exactly. I appreciate that, Dave.
For other
Thank
reasons,
you.
And we'll have you come back anytime you want.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right,
Take
buddy.
care.
Yep. Thank you, Paul. When we come back, a local initiative helping parents talk to their kids about drugs and alcohol. We've got the details when Inside South Florida returns.